In my last video, I spoke about everything I learned when navigating a new career path. In today's video, I'll be discussing an important aspect of that, which is the job search. It is no news that the job market is very competitive and challenging right now, and having gone through it myself, here are some lessons I learned along the way. This video will be in two parts. I will talk about strategies that I utilized that helped my journey and the others that did not help at all. But before we get into it, however, hi. My name is Bisi Adenichi, and on my YouTube channel, I share everything from my journey as an international student in the United States, career advancement tips, project management tips, and everything in between. If these are topics that are of interest to you, please be sure to follow along by subscribing to my YouTube channel, watching the rest of my content, and definitely sharing my content with people who would appreciate it. The algorithm brought you here for a reason. So let's begin. First, let's talk about all the strategies that I utilized that did not help my journey. Number one, my resume. I try to fit everything into my resume. I have a very extensive background. I've done so much in my life. So I wanted to communicate all of that to the recruiter, to the companies that I was interested in. That did not help at all. According to my research, the recruiter will look at your resume for an average of 30 seconds. And you need to be able to grab their attention in that 30 seconds. If you have irrelevant information on your resume, they're going to drop it and move on to the next person. And that is not what we want. So learn from my mistakes. Make your resume as concise as possible. Keep it simple and short. One thing that really helped with using generative AI to improve my resume, I asked it to put it in result-driven one-liners for A4 paper. That was the prompt I used. Put this resume in result-driven one-liners for A4 paper. And that really helped. I will do that from day to day, and because I was able to make my resume as concise as possible, that increased my callbacks for interviews. So that is something you want to keep in mind. Keep your resume simple and short. Secondly, not getting the relevant certifications. If you watched the rest of my other videos, I was trying to transition from events to project management. I started by getting a master's degree in project management from New York University. I also did some internships along the way, some campus roles. But because of how challenging the job market is right now, school and everything I learned was just one aspect. I had to go the extra mile to be able to market myself as the right candidate for project management roles. And that was where my PMP and my CSM certification came in. That is not to say getting the master's degree was not helpful at all. I got a lot of callbacks for interviews, but the callback increase is quadrupled once I got my PMP certification. I think I will not be misspeaking if I say the PMP certification is the entry-level requirement for all project management roles, at least 90% of project management roles. Let me not generalize. So if you're looking to transition into the project management field, get the PMP certification. It is so important. For me, I have a master's degree in project management, so I studied for that examination for a little over one month, close to 2 months. But if you don't have a background like I do, 6 months should be enough to study for this examination. It is very challenging, but it is something you can do. If you're not in the project management field, if there's a certain certification that is very required in your field, which you would know because at least 80% of job description will have those certifications, that is something you need to look into to get certified in. So the PMP certification definitely quadrupled my callback for interviews, and that was really great. That was the first mistake I made. I felt like, well, I have the master's degree, I have all these experiences. That should be enough. No, once I got the PMP certification, everything definitely got better. Another mistake I made, should I call it a mistake? Another thing I would improve on if I were to go through this journey again is applying for roles I was too qualified for. Initially, I would apply for like senior project management roles, and because I wasn't getting these roles, I decided to start applying for entry-level roles. Huge mistake. I was told constantly, well, you're too mature for this role. You have too much experience for this role. You're not a good fit. So I feel like I was in a limbo there because I was trying to change career paths. I was too experienced for entry-level roles, but I did not have enough experience for managerial roles. But eventually I was able to close that gap. And that is where upskilling comes in. Getting a master's degree, getting the PMP certification, it is just one step of the journey, especially if you're in a career pivot like me. You have to go the extra mile. You have to upskill. You have to take part in internship, apprenticeship. So the things that I did that improved my chances of getting a full-time role. The next strategy that I utilized with my resume that did not help was being a generalist. Today, I will interview for marketing roles. Tomorrow, process improvement roles. Today, after customer success role, I will spread so thin, and that did not help my journey at all. So my advice is look at your skill set, look at the strongest ones, and that is what you should concentrate on. That is what I would recommend you do. Now, let's talk about strategies I utilized during interviews that did not help. Number one, I've prepared so much for interviews to the point that my essence will be lost while answering questions. I just wanted to impress the interviewer. That is not a strategy you should use. Think about an interview as a conversation. Let it flow naturally. Don't try too hard. Answer the questions while being yourself. Do your best, but strike a good balance. At some point, I stopped using star. Again, I was trying to over-communicate. I was trying to see everything on my mind. I got so carried away at some point. But then I was able to realize this and I started using star again. Apart from using STAR, which is situation, task, action, and results, I would also talk about the lesson learned. Because as an interviewee, what are the things you've learned during your project? What are the things you learned during your task that helps you moving forward? Those are things you want to communicate. So I started putting my answers in STAR format and I started talking about the lesson learned. And that definitely improved and make it to the second, third stages of interviews. So that is something to keep in mind as well. Now that we've spoken about all the strategies that I utilized that did not help me, let's talk about everything that I did right. To begin with, I researched every company. I familiarized myself with their values because one of the first questions they will ask you during an interview is, why do you want to work here? You want to talk about their values and how it aligns with yours. And you also want to present yourself as somebody that has researched, that has done their research, that has done their homework. You don't want to just come as a person that just wants to get a job. Go out of your way to understand the reason a company exists, who are their target audience, have they been in the news of recent, for what reason, the industry they operate in, what is happening in that industry. Really do your research. And in doing your research, maintain a balance. Always remember to maintain a balance when answering the questions. Secondly, I submitted a cover letter for all my applications. Initially, I would write one for every application, and that was a little tiring. So eventually what I did was I created 3 general cover letters. One for project management roles, one for marketing roles, and one for process improvement roles. Once I had taken the time to understand my core strengths, I decided these were the roles I was going to apply for. And I created cover letter to match each of the 3 roles. In doing that, I was able to save time and also not get tired because writing a cover letter for every role, it's a lot of work. I then address this letter to your prestigious company. Most project management roles have the same job descriptions: stakeholder engagement, team management, collaboration, utilizing technology. So that was how I was able to write this cover letter. I kept it simple, concise, 1 page, 5 paragraphs. It was great. That helped. Cover letters are especially great because it helps provide nuances to your experiences. With resume, we want to keep it concise. The cover letter is where you can now add a little bit of more information about the things that are on the resume. So that is something to keep in mind. Try to submit a cover letter for all of your applications. Practicing for interviews. That is something I'd always done, but in practicing, I was able to strike a balance. I timed myself, kept all my answers within 90 seconds, and that definitely helped. I talked about the situation, the task, the action, the result, and the lesson learned, all within 90 seconds. I also had people help me out, family, friends. I even went to the Glassdoor pages of organizations that I interviewed at, looked at the common question. Those are things that you can see on their Glassdoor pages and basically familiarized myself with them. That really helped me. In addition, I practiced the question I would ask because the interviewers will ask you, do you have any questions? And you want to ask relevant questions. You want to ask questions that make them see you as somebody that is a good candidate for the role. So that is something to keep in mind as well. Fourthly, I stayed motivated. A job search is one of the most challenging things anyone can go through. And your ability to stay motivated throughout the journey, well, that goes a long way. I was getting rejected left and right. I'll get to third, fourth stages and be told, well, somebody else got the job, we went another direction. That can definitely affect your morale. And that is why it is important to stay motivated. Have people around you that will uplift you. Still go ahead and do the things you love. Don't tie your life around the job search. I know it is hard. That is how you pay your bills. But stay motivated, continue to push yourself. And while you're in the waiting period, keep upskilling, keep improving yourself. And everything will turn out well. An additional strategy that helped me was staying in touch. I stayed in touch with interviewers. I stayed in touch with recruiters. I would reach out and ask them, do you give me any feedback that can help my journey? Some were very gracious to get on Zoom with me, answer the question I had, told me the things I could do better. Other people gave me referrals. It was great. And one of those referrals actually ended up in a role. Somebody had interviewed with, spoke to somebody on my behalf, and I was able to land a role that way. So keep in touch. If somebody tells you no, don't take no for no. Don't say, well, that door is closed. Present yourself as somebody that is actually ambitious, be a good addition to their team or somebody they know. The good thing about staying in touch is you realize that these are human beings like you who are also rooting for you. The fact that they did not go with you for that role doesn't mean that something will not come up down the line that they will think you're a good fit for. So stay in touch, stay motivated, keep going. I learned from every interview. I would do soul searching, but personally, I would think to myself, I would go back to the drawing board. I go back to the drawing board every day. I took this very seriously because, again, it is my life and I wanted to improve the quality of my life by landing a role in a new career that I was very interested in. So I learned lessons along the way about myself, about my communication skills, about things that I could improve by asking questions, and I also learned not to be too hard on myself. Once I realized that sometimes I was a second choice in a role and I only did not get it because I did not have enough experience, not because I was not great, that helps me move forward really. Also, I would say really, really understand your self worth. Understand that because something does not end the way you wanted it, does not make you less of a person, does not mean you're not good enough. Life just life sometimes. So take it easy on yourself. I leveraged my connections. Again, after every interview, I stayed in touch. I would also reach out to these interviewers and ask them, oh, do you know anybody who's hiring this rate? If anything comes up, if anything opens up, I am still interested. Apart from that, I reached out to people who I went to school with, people from back home in Nigeria. I let them know that, hey, I'm in the United States, I'm looking for a job. I did not just keep quiet. I spoke to the people that I could speak to. I asked them to speak to people on my behalf. I was on LinkedIn, I was on Glassdoor, I was on Reddit looking at what people were saying. I leveraged all the connections that I had, and eventually it paid off. I understood the power of storytelling in interviews. Apart from the STAR methodology, I also leveraged talking about lesson learned. Talking about lesson learned just puts you in a different bracket because you are showing yourself as someone that believes in the culture of continuous improvement. And that is very big into this business world. So that is something to keep in mind as well. This will be the end of this video. If you're on this journey, I can tell you categorically that it is not going to be forever. Keep going, don't quit, and everything will turn out just fine. If you have any question about everything I have shared so far, you can reach out to me on my LinkedIn BC at PMP. So it's been so nice catching up with you. Have an amazing day. Bye.